The following podcast is an RMG Media production.
Hey,
Hello.
how's it going?
Good.
You're not Sydney.
I'm not.
You're Ashley.
Yes.
This is
sitting in the host seat.
This is so different.
Yes.
But it was so great, and we had you on instead of Sydney because we interviewed a very special guest who is very close to you. And the reason why you're at Renaissance. So for those of you that don't know, Ashley McDuffie is a incredible account manager on the Renaissance Marketing Group team. I mean, absolutely incredible. More than an account manager, graphic designer, strategist, the whole nine. You do it all, and you're so great at it. And you came to us from your good friend and our guest of today's episode, Shannen Stewart, who is the founder of a great organization called Heels Handshakes.
Yes.
It was such a fun episode.
It was so fun.
Yeah, so you loved it?
Yes, I had a lot of fun sitting in the host seat. I was kind of nervous, but then once we started going, I was like, this is so fun.
Yeah. Well, I loved it because you said you were so excited because you grew up pretending to be on the news.
Oh, yeah. If this is my dream job and I love what I do, but if I had another dream job, I would be like an e-news correspondent.
That's
I've just
great.
always loved, I would love pop culture.
Yeah.
And so I've always grown up like watching YouTube video interviews of like the Today Show and E! News. So I've always thought about,
Wow.
interviewing people, what it would be like.
Well, what's new in today's pop culture? What's going on?
The Amber Heard Johnny Depp
Oh,
trials,
yeah, that's
the big one.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah. What else is new?
I don't know. I feel like there's always something with
There's
Pete
always
Davidson.
something new. That's what I turn on when I go home from work and I'm like cooking dinner or like doing stuff around the house is Daily Pop.
Oh, wow.
So I'm always up to date with
Okay.
the
Yeah.
what's going on in
I don't
pop
know
culture.
any of it. I just really enjoyed watching Kanye West go crazy on Instagram.
Yeah.
That was like my favorite thing. I would wake up and just there would be 5 or 6 Instagram posts that he fired off that are just insane.
Yeah.
And I miss that. Those were the days.
Yeah, those are he's a wild one.
Yeah, he's out there for sure. He's definitely out to lunch. All right, well, getting back to it. I mean, we just absolutely enjoyed having you on. It was so much fun to include you in this episode. And talking with Shannen was so great. I didn't really know her full story or really know all about Heels and Handshakes, but maybe give us a brief overview of what that organization is.
So it is an organization for women and men in business and entrepreneurs, just to network and grow your community. And really, honestly, it's just a huge community that's super encouraging, that's all about lifting others up and helping others, find opportunities, whether it's a job opportunity or, opportunities in your business. It's a great network of opportunities is the best way I can put it.
Such kind people, everyone within over or close to 300 members.
Yes.
But it doesn't feel like that. Like, it doesn't feel overcrowded. It's just like an awesome giant community family. It's really, really neat.
Yes.
And, Shannen's got a very distinguished background. She came from corporate, had just kind of a theme that we talk about is she kind of had like a really outrageous like quota to hit of meeting 25 contacts a week, which is insane. If you're an introvert, that makes you want to cry. If you're an extrovert, that also makes you want to cry because that's just so many people,
a lot of people
to log into your CRM or whatever. If you're in sales, you get it. And so she just talks about how that kind of transitioned her into like this networking mindset, and how she really birthed Heels and Handshakes, which is, again, a really, really incredible organization that's been around since 2013.
Yes.
It's really grown.
Yeah, it's grown
It's massive.
insanely, especially it's crazy that it grew in 2020. I
Yeah.
feel like it really expanded during 2020, because before the pandemic, it was mainly hospitality. It was
Right.
hospitality industry and for women. And during the pandemic, she kind of pivoted like all of us did and to expand the organization to include men and include not just hospitality individuals, but all types of individuals. And honestly, part of that came from some people in the hospitality industry had to switch careers
Right.
and had to make a career move. So they were no longer in hospitality. They were in real estate or something else. So a lot of people really just had to pivot. And I think Shannen did a great job of that, of just growing and expanding her network.
Yeah. So in today's episode, I mean, y'all are going to love it. It talks about how you expand your network, how you pivot around a pandemic like we all had to do. But there's such a valuable lesson in pivoting around a pandemic. I mean, if you want to talk about entrepreneurship, you go through unlimited amounts of roadblocks. No one on this earth expected that we were going to have to deal with a pandemic as a roadblock. So just to hear everyone's perspective about how they switch is really, really unique. And this one is super cool considering it's networking. It's all in person. You know, that's the whole point. So it was really unique to hear how she did that. We talked about a bunch of great stuff. So I think y'all are really going to enjoy it. And without further ado, here is Ashley and Shannen.
Welcome to the Renaissance Podcast, a podcast for Renaissance women
and men
who want to create a modern-day renaissance in their life and business.
We interview some of the most successful entrepreneurs and share their unique stories.
Are you ready to create your renaissance?
Welcome back to the Renaissance Podcast. Today is a very special episode because not only do we have an incredible guest, Shannen, but we also have another incredible guest, Ashley, who is an account manager on our team.
Yes.
And very well connected to our incredible guest. And I feel like instead of me giving the introduction, Ashley, I feel like I should turn it over to you and introduce Shannen and how you all know each other and who this wonderful person is.
Yes. Well, I met Shannen when I first moved to Nashville almost 3 years ago, which is wild. I can't believe I've lived here for 3 years. But I had lived in Nashville for about 2 days, and someone had told me that I needed to go to a Heels and Handshakes event. And so I was like, okay, I'll go. I was like, I don't know anyone. I don't really know this city. I just moved here, but I'll go and network. And so I went to my first Heels and Handshakes event and met Shannen, and she was so gracious and so nice and so welcoming. And I didn't have a job yet. I was still looking for a job. And so just kind of taught me how to network and how to meet people. And I tell everyone any job I've ever found in Nashville, I found through Heels and Handshakes.
It's true.
So it's such a huge
we got you.
testimony to how great this organization is.
Thank you. And I remember I was so impressed by you because you were like, yeah, I'm new, only been here for 2 days. And most people I know, like if you're new to a city, you're not going to a networking event and putting yourself out there. So I was just really impressed with you. And I was like, this girl is a go-getter.
Yeah, 100%. Like the number one hustler, Ashley McDuffie.
I like that title. I'll keep
cool.
it. It's a good title to
you're
have.
no longer an account manager. You're just number one hustler.
I like
Number
it.
one hustler. I'll give you another one. I also say Ashley sometimes is like silent but violent, right? So like silent where she's like the quiet type, but violent where like she just gets work done.
Right.
And she's like, you know, just like if this is a duck and like going on water and it's like very cool, calm, and collected up top, the feet are just going like 1,000 miles per hour. Like that's Ashley. She's just like.
Yes, I do have a quiet competitiveness to me that I think through my competitive cheerleading days in middle school and high school, one of my coaches one time was like, I never noticed how competitive you were until there was another squad that did a halftime show, and like we didn't have anything prepared, and I was like, we've got to do a halftime show. Like we have to do a halftime show. They just did one.
Yeah.
And so I've always just kind of had this quiet competitiveness to me. But let's not talk about me anymore. Shannen, you're our guest.
I was going to say, I love that you were a cheerleader because I always joke that I never made the cheerleading team, but I cheer women on in business.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
you know, that's kind of with Heels and Handshakes. I like no rhythm in the cheerleading, but I will be your number one cheerleader and your hype girl.
And you are truly just an incredible inspiration with what you've done with Heels and Handshakes. I mean, it's one of the best networking organizations I've ever seen. And the events that I've gone to and been a part of, even though it is so like female based, like I feel so included when I go, and it's just an incredibly supportive group, and everyone's so great. You have over 200 members now?
So almost 300.
Almost 300 now, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So I think for the listener, give us the story. Tell us about Heels and Handshakes, what it is, how you started it, the whole nine. Let's hear it.
Absolutely. So Heels and Handshakes is a membership for women and men. We have a level called Allies and Bow Ties, but we're a membership for women in business and entrepreneurs. And I started Heels and Handshakes in 2013. And I wish I had this like incredible founder story of like one night I fell asleep and this vision came to me, you know, just like something really cool. But truthfully, I don't have that founder story. My story, and this is what I practice every day, is work smarter, not harder. Right. So in 2012, I was working for a corporation and I was in client sales. So our goal was to meet 25 clients a week. So like networking was legit a job description. And one of my coworkers started a group that she called Ladies Happy Hour. So being in client sales, you want to meet with people, and by creating this Ladies Happy Hour, she was able to meet all these incredible women in the industry. And her territory was Miami, and so it was very, very successful. And so I was in Orlando at the time, and I always give credit where credit is due. I'm not the one that came up with like this Ladies Happy Hour. My coworker Jackie was doing that. So I started it in Orlando, and it was a huge hit, and it was just a great way to meet other like-minded women. And then in 2012, I relocated back to Nashville. I'm originally from here. And I found that I was struggling, even though I'm from Nashville and I have like all my girlfriends.
Right.
But when I moved back, I was in a different season of my life where, you know, being in the South, I called it diamonds before diplomas. So all my friends that got married before they graduated college.
Wow, yeah.
So then in their 20s, they're all popping out babies. And there's nothing wrong with that. I was just on a different trajectory. I was really career focused. So when I moved back and I had all my friends here, I realized that I missed that community of women that were in my industry. And so I took the Ladies Happy Hour idea and I made it Heels and Handshakes. And so I love alliteration. I love the name. It's just pretty easy to kind of paint the picture, right? Like heels for women, because at that time, it was only for women and it was only for hospitality industry professionals.
Right.
And then with 2020 and the pandemic, I really had that aha moment. You know, the pandemic impacted everybody, but there are statistics out there that released that 40% of unemployment in the U.S. because of COVID-19 was made up of the hospitality and the tourism industry. A lot of people were furloughed. And so for me, you know, looking at our membership, and I'm an empath, so I feel everything. Yeah. And, you know, I was struggling, and I realized I was struggling because our members, our community, my friends, you know, everyone was really impacted with 2020. And that aha moment was, you know, I need to diversify our member portfolio. Why are we only focused on hospitality industry? We need HR, we need tech, we need banking. You know, I believe that you should surround yourself with other people, all walks of life, and just people that can help you grow. Yeah. So when we started out in 2013, we were primarily women. But we added an allies and bow ties level.
Just so great.
Yeah, and so that's been really beneficial for our membership. But that's kind of the long story short is, you know, there's no revolutionary idea about this like networking group. It worked in Orlando, brought it to Nashville, and there was just really momentum around it. Yeah. You know, women getting together and supporting each other.
Which I think that's so great, and I think I love all the innovation that you've done. Ashley was filling us in just with how you managed to retain and then grow memberships throughout the pandemic. So maybe tell us about some of those pivots and things that you came up with to just get people together throughout the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a backstory real quick for anyone listening. I started Heels and Handshakes in 2013, but I went full-time in 2020, which was, you know, obviously not the best timing. So I left my corporate position on Valentine's Day. It was my last day. I remember being like, happy Valentine's Day to myself, taking a risk, going to go into full-time entrepreneurship. So March 5th was our last meeting. It was International Women's Day.
Yes, I
Ashley
remember.
was there.
Collective 615.
Yeah, we were at Collective 615. And then, you know, 2 weeks later, the world shuts down. Wow. And so I think the way that we pivoted, where everyone was saying to stay 6 feet apart, we were helping members generate 6 figures and more. We're like, we got to pivot. We got to come up with other ideas. We got to go online. We got to go digital. We got to do, you know, our restaurants, we need to have delivery services. So where people were shutting down, we were not. We were staying consistent. We were showing up. Yeah. My personality, I don't sit down. I'm working on that. Rest is productive. But in that moment, I just had to be a servant leader. Yeah. And we put our members first. You know, when we had the restrictions where we couldn't meet in person, we did Zoom. when our members had Zoom fatigue, we do walk and talks, right? Like we were listening to our members. And for those members that still didn't feel safe or didn't feel comfortable meeting up in person, we had the online capabilities to still utilize our membership perks and benefits. So that really helped us.
Oh, that's so great. What were some things that you took away the most, Ashley, just throughout like the pandemic and everything like that?
Honestly, just like the sense of support and the sense of community, that everyone was just building each other up, even though it was such a crazy time in the world. And I think that's when really Heels like changed my life, honestly, and impacted my life, because 2020 was crazy for me personally, professionally, all across the board. And I remember just leaning into the Heels groups and being so excited whenever there was, we would do meditations on the Facebook page or board meetings, just being so excited to have a community because it was such an isolating time.
Yeah.
And so I feel like too, even afterwards, like having events again in 2021 and getting back together, everyone is just so much happier to be together. There's just this sense of like, we all went through something together and now we all made it on the other side and everyone's thriving again.
Yeah.
But there's just this sense of grit in this community that you don't see in other communities, which I think is really cool. And I think the pandemic had so much to do with that.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, everyone was just, I feel like, so depressed. It was awful. I mean, we chuckle about it now, but like, it got bad.
Yeah. It got bad when even the introverts were ready to like meet in person again.
I just want to go to the grocery store. Like I'm so, and then, I mean, it was awful. Like I hate Zoom to this day. I have Zoom TSD. Like it's awful. I would rather be in person. And that's why we, with this podcast, we've done virtual ones, but we really are trying to just focus on in person, because now that we can, we want to harness it. You never know if it'll get taken away again. Like it was just such a level of the playing field for everyone.
Well, and you can feed off of each other's energy in person.
Yes.
And you can't get that from a computer screen.
Yeah,
it's just completely different.
It is. Well, and that's an interesting thing that I think you incorporate into like your life is obviously like championing women, but you have this thing, it's called Strut.
Yeah.
What is a strut?
So Strut is main character energy vibes, right? So the acronym Strut stands for share, teach, recognize, uplift, and toot, like toot your own horn.
Right.
So as women, we have the tendency to play small sometimes, and some women have challenges sharing their accolades or their accomplishments out loud because they feel like it's bragging or it's shameful. So we implemented Struts, and we give our members a platform every meeting at the end where they walk up in front of everybody. And we had a meeting last night, and one girl was like, "Oh, I have to say the Strut?" I'm like, "Yes, this is the purpose. This is the plan." We want to empower women and men that you should be able to share your accolades and your accomplishments, because one, you should be proud of that, and then two, you're teaching other women and men that it's okay to, get up in front of people and have that confidence, right? If you're in a corporate setting and you feel like you're constantly overlooked, start bringing your value. If you're not going to share your wins, who else is? Well, Heels members will. We always got each other's backs. But we implemented that strategy and that initiative because we think it's important to empower our members. We want them to be. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable talking about yourself or saying like, "I did this today." And so
it's like the little wins that I think go there's little wins, then there's big wins that you don't even recognize, because I think people are always like, I'm humble or whatever, but it's like, no, screw that. Be happy. You just did some cool shit.
Brag on yourself.
And brag.
Brag on yourself, inspire others. And then another thing that I just thought of is, sometimes you have these small wins, and then I've learned this as an entrepreneur, I'm just on to the next and on to the next, but I didn't celebrate that win, and so like that's really important too. Don't just get stuck into the hustle of like, oh, I got to achieve this, this, and this. Celebrate those milestones when you hit them.
How do you slow yourself down to take a step back? Like, what are some things that because I find that incredibly difficult to do. And I know if Sydney were here, she'd say the same thing. Same thing with Ashley. Like, we're constantly like, all right, one thing, we're done.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could say that I've mastered this, but truthfully, I haven't. It's something that has to be intentional. So I give myself summer Fridays.
Nice.
And on summer Fridays, I choose one thing that brings me joy. And so I will take that time to celebrate. And even if I didn't hit a milestone, so one thing about me is I'm an achiever, and I have to work on being a healthy achiever and not really equating that to my self-worth.
Right.
But so even if I didn't hit a milestone, still celebrating like, hey, I work for myself. I can have summer Fridays, or I did XYZ. So it's just an intentional practice, but I haven't mastered it by any means. I'm working on it.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a way to master it, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, it's so difficult to. I like summer Fridays. We do that at the office. We close up early and just kind of give people time to do their own thing, and have a little bit of a longer weekend. And I think that is super helpful. And I like just that aspect of what you do. Like, choose that one thing that you can kind of reward yourself with.
Yeah.
And
look, before becoming a mom, it would have been like, oh, a fancy purse or something materialistic. And now I'm just like, I'm going to take a bath by myself with a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Like, it can just be simple, but just something to reward yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
So there are some phrases in the Heels community that if Heels listeners are listening, they'll know. But for the listeners that aren't part of the Heels community, could you kind of expand on them and talk about them? One is connect before you collect.
Yeah, absolutely. So connect before you collect relates to really networking. And I know we talked about this. I always try to tell people networking is not a single destination. People are like, oh, Heels is a networking group. I don't want people thinking that when they come to a meeting, that's networking. Networking is what you do when you leave that meeting. Networking is building fostering ongoing and organic relationships. The networking meeting is the opportunity to meet the people. So we say connect before you collect, because you're there to meet the person that you're talking to.
Right.
You're not there trick-or-treating. Like, I hate that reference, but we all know that person, right?
Yeah.
Where they're just like, can I have a card? Can I have a card? Can I have a card?
Right.
Or you get a card, you get a card, you get, like Oprah, and it's like, dude, or girl, I didn't even get to know your name.
Who are you?
You got to build a relationship first. So we say connect before you collect, because you really want to just foster that relationship and find out about that person. And even if that moment you feel like, oh, we may never cross paths, you can still collect the business card, because look, Nashville's a small world and you never know where people are going to end up. And I just really think that it's about building genuine relationships and not building a relationship, because you think that person can do something for you.
I like that. I think that's an important thing to recognize with networking, because even like when I would go to events in the past, whenever I would like first move to Nashville and I would do it just for like Renaissance sake or whatever, I would go. There were always those people, and then I found myself being that person without realizing like what networking actually is. And I like that that's what Heels is built around.
Yeah, the relationship building.
As a relationship and a community, and like it's not just like, here's what my business is. It's like, no, there's a bigger purpose here.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond that just first conversation.
Well, and Ashley will tell you, because she's an OG, in the beginning, we didn't even have name tags, because I didn't want people where they would just go up and look at your name tag to see, like, who do you work for? Like, how can you help me?
Right.
Yeah.
We only brought name tags in during the pandemic, just with, like, masks and all of that.
Right.
But we really want our members and guests to get to know you as a person, Walker.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, who do you work for? Oh, well, I don't need a realtor. Or, oh, I don't need this. I already have a person.
Right.
Yeah,
I like that. And the first event that I was at was the Heels and She the Project. I filmed that one, and it was so much fun, and I enjoyed it. Everyone there was just so freaking nice. And I guess it's because you are so nice. You've led by example. But how have you built like the nicest and kindest group?
Well, thank you. I'd like to say I could take credit for that, but I really think the secret sauce is our members. So when our members come to events, and that's actually our biggest recruitment tool, is referrals. So members will come to our events, they'll come to our meetings, our educational workshops, and they see the ROI. And so what I say is you have to put the work in, right? This is like anything in life. If I buy a gym membership and then I never go to the gym and then I'm upset because I don't have abs, I have to take initiative that I didn't put the results in. So our members will get involved, and they just have a supportive group, and they're meeting people, and they're forming friends and referrals. And so they're the ones that are attracting other members because other like-minded people attract other like-minded people.
Right.
And it's been interesting. We've had a lot of people relocate here from the West, California.
Oh, yeah.
And, I'll hear some comments or I'll get emails and people will be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I had such a great time. Everyone was so friendly. There were no mean girls. And I'm like, of course there's no mean girls. Like, one, this is 2022. There should not be any mean girls. No mean girls, meaningful conversations. Like, you need to have that mindset that we're all here to support each other. And the difference is when people come in and they're negative or catty or threatened, that's a mindset of scarcity. And we have a mindset of abundance. There's enough to go around and we can all help each other.
Yeah, collaboration over competition. That's
Yes.
another one of your phrases that
Yes.
I think is one of the most important phrases, like in business.
Yeah.
Like trademark it because it's so great. But it's so true. And that's like kind of the Nashville vibe, I feel like.
Yes.
It's a lot with this city is, I think it's just like a combo of like Southern hospitality and
I
just
agree.
a great city in itself. But there's enough to go around.
Absolutely.
It's one area of networking that's really helped our business is partnering with other agencies. And we used to be so fearful of that. And in like the early
Interesting.
days of Renaissance, it was always kind of like, ooh, like, are they going to steal our client or what is going to happen? We just never knew. And then now it's like, oh no, if we partner with other agencies, we're going to get more business because they offer things that we don't offer or vice versa. And it's just helped us land like easy referrals that way. So
Absolutely.
once you kind of lose that mindset and understand that like the world's not out to get you, I feel like it makes life a lot easier.
Well, and then too, like you become an indispensable resource. So if your services don't fit a client's need, then you can refer them to someone else and they'll be grateful for you for that referral.
Yeah. And then that just furthers
Just keeps
everything.
growing your network.
Yeah.
And kind of like what you said, going back to what you said about you never know where someone will end up. You never know. That's why networking is so important to not just like, oh, you're a real estate agent. Well, I don't need real estate right now, or I don't need this. You might need real estate one day, or you might need something one day. You just never know.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that's so powerful about Heels. Even if you look back to the beginning, like before pre-pandemic, I mean, so many people's jobs have changed. My job's changed. I'm doing something different. I was doing catering. Now I'm doing digital marketing. And so, I'm like, well, if you don't need catering, come to me for digital marketing or things like that. You never know. And that's what's so powerful. And too powerful that you've expanded to not just be hospitality. You've really grown to include every type of entrepreneur, which is awesome. So another phrase that I want to talk about is check the pulse, not the box.
Yes, that's a good one. So check the pulse, not the box. So it's been very interesting when looking at our membership and, we were talking about how other like-minded people attract other like-minded people. We're a lot of type A's, right? We're planners, we're doers. And so I like the phrase, check the pulse, not the box, because it reminds you like there's a human being, right, that you're talking to. And instead of check the box, which is just like, oh, I did it, right?
Yeah.
The achievers feel like, oh, I made my quota, I did this. It's reminding you, check the pulse. There's a human being that you're talking to. This isn't just to make some quota of like, oh, I met this person at this open house, or oh, I met this person at a ribbon cutting, and then you go on and enter it in your CRM. You're not going to see any traction because there was no relationship built there.
Right.
And kind of like what you were saying, Ashley, like you were with a caterer, now you're with digital marketing. The relationships that you were able to cultivate, people want to work with you because of you. It doesn't matter what field you're in. They're like, oh my gosh, Ashley was great customer service, very friendly. She was easy to work with. Oh, now she's over in this space. Like, yeah, I'm going to continue to work with Ashley because I had such a great experience with her. So it's just a reminder for our members that, don't get so caught up because, look, life is busy now, especially like things are open. And I feel like some of us are trying to make up for 2020, whether that's loss of revenue or loss of time. And so we just go.
Yeah.
It's a reminder to slow down and just really check in with the person that you're talking to. Like, this is a human being on the other end of this.
When looking back, like I like how you kind of reference, meeting so-and-so and then just putting it in the CRM, just putting it in Salesforce or whatever. When you were given the task of meeting 25 people a week.
Yes.
I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
To me, that sounds like quantity over quality.
Yeah.
Was that the case, or was that beneficial to anything, or is this how you came up with check the pulse, not the box?
Yeah, so really great question. So at that time, it was just, you have to make this quota, and I'm very much quality over
Right.
quantity. And this is what happened when I would go in, and 25 clients a week is a lot. Like I remember being like, that's a little overambitious. But what happened is when I was able to check the pulse, not the box, and form and foster these really genuine relationships, people were referring me like, oh my gosh, oh, Shannen's so great. You got to meet so-and-so.
Right.
And so that number became easier to obtain and hit that goal because I did the work in making those
Right.
relationships. So at the time I was selling a national product, draping, decor, scenic. People weren't working with me because they wanted draping and scenic. They loved that we had that relationship and the trust that was built. And then we would form a friendship. And so it became easier to have those referrals because I earned the trust, right? Like I put that hard work in
Right.
by checking the pulse and not the box.
That's so great. I think that's super important. But one thing also, because I'm so talking to people, it's so hard to and you said you're an empath, so you get people and you empathize with people and everything. There's a lot of shit bags out there. And there's a lot of people that are awful, but they're really good at hiding it.
Yeah.
So how do you gauge people's intentions, or just even in the networking space, a lot of it is and in Nashville, I feel like more and more recently, there are a lot of people that try and climb the social ladder.
Yeah.
And that's just what they're looking for. How do you point that out or distinguish I don't need to include this person in my life?
That's a great question. So I'm in a season of my life right now where, I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur, and I recently experienced a loss of a parent. And so my time is very valuable. So if it doesn't bring me peace, profit, or purpose, I don't pay attention to it.
Right.
And, thank you for bringing up the people that are social ladder climbing, the opportunist. Because I am an empath, I'm able to really identify energies.
Yeah.
And for those of you that are listening, if you don't have that and you're like, okay, I don't how can I read that? How can I feel that? My husband's always like, that's so woo-woo, because I'm like, energy, it's not good energy, but I'm really into energy. So if you're not into energy and you would like just a rule of thumb of how to really identify those people, I would say to think of the 3 F's. So is it forced? What happens if you forget? And then the follow-up. So I'll break these down. So forced is pretty self-explanatory. You all know when you're having a conversation with somebody, if you feel like you can't be your true, authentic self, and they're not being their true, authentic self, and it just feels forced, that's pretty easy energy to read. The second one, I said forget. So have you ever been just going along your week, and then it's Friday, and you're like, oh yeah, this weekend I was supposed to have plans with this person, and you forgot about it, snuck up on you. Pay attention to how you feel. Are you excited that you're gonna go meet that person for coffee, happy hour, insert XYZ, or are you dreading it? Oh man, I gotta go meet with so-and-so this weekend. I think that's an easy way to just identify how do you feel? Do you feel drained already and you haven't even gotten in the car to go meet that person?
Right.
Because you feel like they're just an opportunist and they just want, givers have to set boundaries because takers have none.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I've learned.
That's a great. Yeah.
Because I'm always give, and I've realized takers are always going to keep asking.
Yeah.
So pay attention to if you feel drained and you haven't even gone in your car to go to that meeting. And then the last F is follow-up. So with people that are fake or toxic and they just want something from you, the follow-up is really important. So I'm a big believer that actions speak louder than words.
Right.
I'm in the space where that sounds weird to be I know a lot of people. Sorry, that's but I'm a Nashville native, so I've lived here for a long time, and I have a pretty amazing community. I'm a little biased, but we've got a lot of amazing members.
Well, it's fantastic.
So I'll be out and I'll see somebody, and it'll be oh, small talk, and then, hey, we should get coffee. or we should get happy hour. We need to get together. And when there's no follow-up or follow-through, to me, I feel like that's just kind of fake and a space filler.
Right, yeah.
And so I'd love to change that and like say, can we all like just stop doing that?
Yeah.
And there's no need to fill space. Just say, it was so great seeing you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Because if you don't have intentions of actually having a follow-up where it's a meeting and it's a genuine conversation, not what can I get from you? Like that's when you can really see the people that are fake or just opportunists and, you know, they're just taking advantage. So you have to set those boundaries.
Yeah. Well, and you have done a great job with Heels, and I can't say that enough because
Thank you.
It is, I mean, there's just none of that within your community. I mean,
well, and I'll tell you what, it goes back to the members, right?
Yeah.
Because our members are positive and collaborative, and if somebody came in and they were negative Nancy or just, you know, just really toxic, they're not going to feel welcomed because not saying that our members would be ugly to them by any means, but like our members want to be around other supportive men and women.
Yeah.
And so it's just really apparent when you're at our meeting, the energy level is different.
it is, yeah.
Well, and I feel like it's hard to come in and be negative at a Heels member because everyone is so happy and so genuine and so kind and so friendly that like even if you did come in with kind of a negative attitude, I feel like that would be like taken off your plate as soon as you walk through the doors and start talking to people because that's just not the vibe at all.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll say this too. So like, you know, I keep saying, and I give credit where credit is due. So it's all about the members. Like the members are amazing. They're supportive. But I will say, I think there's power to messaging and, you know, words are wands, which you put out there. And so we have lots of mantras and lots of sayings. But I think in the beginning when we're really, you know, telling people about our membership and our culture, the mantra is to surround yourself with women who would drop your name in a room full of opportunities. So that goes back to that mindset of abundance, right? Like you don't need to be threatened because we all want to help each other because that's how we all win.
Right. Oh, that's great.
Another one of our mantras that I not only I know I keep going back to the
I love 'em,
mantras,
though.
but this one's one of my favorites, and I honestly take this into account every day in my personal life and my professional life. It's work smarter, not harder.
Yes. I mean, I did not coin that at all, obviously, but that's just a good reminder. So I'll give you an example, and this kind of goes back to collaboration over competition. We have a member that works for a social enterprise called Resera. So they help women get back on their feet and they become makers. So they make beautiful jewelry. I know you were at the event that recently.
I missed that event, but I'm aware of it was the Herbank.
The Herbank.
Yes. Sydney and I were there.
Okay, that's perfect. So anyways, going back to work, smarter, not harder. She said her dream and a goal of hers that she had was to have a closet for these women. Because when you're leaving a domestic violence abuse situation or whatever the case is, you're not grabbing clothes, you're just going, right? You're trying to seek shelter and safety. And so her idea was to have this closet. And we were gonna do a clothing drive with all of our members. And so my goal, and Ashley knows this since she's on our board, I'm all about mantra and words and goals. My goal for this year is simplify to amplify. Old me, we would have done a clothing drive, we would have done all these things, but I thought, okay, there's got to be an organization that already has this. Why reinvent the wheel, right? Like work smarter, not harder. And so one of my contacts, Bonnie, which I know she's been on this podcast.
Yeah. We love Bonnie.
Yeah, she's amazing. With Well Dressed Nashville, she does clothing sales of, celebrities and influencers. So it's like, I'm sure she has a contact of someone that has, what do they do with all these clothes that are left over? So she then got me connected to Angie with 1035. And turns out they already have a brick and mortar. So they have the space, they have the clothing, and their model is very similar, helping women.
Right.
Their target demographic was younger females. And so when I told her about Resera's story, she was like, this makes sense. Like, absolutely, we'd love to partner.
Yeah.
So what turned into, if I would have let it been ego, like we have to do this and do 2 sales a year and, try and find space, and then with space, all the things that go into producing an event.
Yes.
We worked smarter and we collaborated with 1035 that already had this existing space. They have the clothing, and she was so generous that she even offered gift certificates. So any woman that comes from Resera has a certain dollar amount and they can take any clothing there. And the other beautiful thing about this is if we had done it our way, if a woman came into Racera, let's say she came off the streets in July, she would have had to wait until October to get clothing, home goods, insert XYZ. But the fact that they've partnered with 1035, they can shop all year round. So that was just a beautiful collaboration, and it just worked out really well.
That's so great.
That's amazing.
I love that. Racera is also such a great just organization as well.
Yeah.
I met Corbin for the first time a couple weeks ago, and we're gonna actually end up having him on the podcast.
Oh, good.
He's just, it's just so incredible, truly inspiring. I mean, I think I cried like 5 times when I was there. That's the connections that are formed within this organization are just incredible.
Thank
I mean,
you.
seriously, with us getting Ashley, it was like one of the best things ever. And we're so thrilled to have her on our team, and we love anytime she's like, hey, I have a Heels event. We're like, go do your thing. And I just think it's so inspiring because you're such a young in your career, but you're a board member of an incredible organization, director of programs.
Yeah.
What is
Which
that?
is not an easy task.
Yeah.
I'm co-director.
But
Gotta
you're
give
still-
props to Michelle because
Because
she's
it takes a
amazing.
village.
It's definitely a team job. I could not do that job by myself. But yeah, it's awesome. It's a lot of fun we plan as director of programs, we plan 4 educational programs for our members a year, 1 each quarter, or we try to do 1 each quarter. Sometimes we change it up a little bit. But they're so fun to plan. We're planning the speakers, the topics, venues, securing sponsors. But it's a lot of fun. I love this job because I get feedback from the Heels members. I get to talk to the Heels members and say, hey, what do you want to learn about? Like, what do you want out of this organization? Let's try to do it. Let's try to plan it. Let's, come up with it, see if we can make it happen. One of my favorite things we did was our Galentine's Day. We had our first annual Heels Awards show. Which was amazing, and we pulled it off in less than a month, I feel like.
Yeah.
Never
again.
Yeah. But we were at our board meeting in January, and Shannen had said, it's a goal of mine to have an awards banquet and be able to, brag on our members and shout out our members. And Ashley Cody, who's director of marketing on our board, she was like, let's do it. We can do it. We can pull it off. If all of us together, we can pull it off. And it was a huge hit and a huge success. And I feel like people still talk about that meeting, and so many wonderful things have come out of that meeting. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to serve. I'm so blessed and honored to serve the Heels community in that way.
Well, and I'm honored. I'm like, don't ever leave me. Need your help.
Yeah, we'll always make sure there's time to balance them both.
Yes.
Which I don't know how you do it to begin with, because I don't think I could at all.
Heels fills my cup. Like when I go to these events, and work does too. I love what I do, but Heels really does. Like, it's just one of those things that just fills my cup. I'm like, I don't want to miss it because it's so fun. You're connecting and meeting lots of different people, and I've formed so many great friendships out of it that now I don't really go I do go for the networking aspect, but I go to see my friends. I go to, hang out with
that's how
people.
Most of the members are too. It's like
well,
seeing everyone.
and I love that you say that too, because originally when you think of like going to networking, like the old vision was like very archaic, and a suit with that name tag like hello, my name is stuck to your chest, and like now it's like no, come as you are, and people are really making like genuine friendships out of this. And yes, if you get work organically, that's a plus, but I think that's a testament when people are like, I'm really close friends with the members. So that makes me happy to hear that.
Well, it's like, it goes back to what you were saying earlier. It's just about making it's you got to build like an actual connection with someone.
Yeah.
And it's not
and don't force it either, though. Like people can feel that.
Yeah.
Which I also like that you say come as you are, like come in sweatpants, whatever, it doesn't matter. Because also that shouldn't matter.
No.
Ever. Like we don't really care. Like Sydney and I are dropouts, and we don't care about it, if you go to college or not or whatever. But we don't like judge resumes on that by any means. And what stood out the most to you is not only did you come from an agency that was great and you had experience, but the wonderful recommendation we got from Shannen. That's what stood out the most. And then seeing like, okay, well, she's a board member on Heels and Handshakes. That's incredible. Like, you're a networker. You're what do we call you? ultimate.
The hustler.
The hustler.
The hustler.
Young hustler.
Yeah.
I forgot your
I'll
nickname
take it.
already. But there was so much more to it. And, we just knew, like, what you recommended meant more than anything, like that trust level. So
Well, thank you for saying that. And I'm glad. I mean, I know she's an asset to your team. And so I'm just glad to see that she's doing so well.
Yeah. That's really cool.
I honestly wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for Heels and Handshakes and if it wasn't for Shannen.
No, that's not
true.
This is what I'll say. So recently people have been saying like, oh, I got my job because of Heels, or oh, I did this because of Heels. And I say, no. Heels, if I had to compare it, I will be your Surrey, right, in your car. I'll be your navigation map, but you're still driving the vehicle. So you got everywhere where you are because you took the initiative 2 days into Nashville and you're like, I'm going to go to this event, so you can, give credit where credit's due, like, oh, this was a helpful resource, but you got everywhere because of you, girl.
It's true.
So
that is true. I like that. It's also good. You could have used that second day to go to Broadway or something.
Yes.
But no, you chose to go to a networking event, which is obviously more than networking. But
Yes.
it's funny how life works out like
It
that.
is
Like
funny.
these little things that shoot your trajectory in the weirdest ways. I mean, you probably never thought that meeting 25 people a week would have led you to where you are now.
Yeah.
No, I remember just being really irritated with that goal. Like, this is unattainable. This is ridiculous. But you're right. Like, everything happens for a reason, and it creates who you are now. Like, because of that quota and that experience and how I was able to change my mindset to not just, check a box. Let's really cultivate a relationship. Here I am. This is my career. Like, this is my job is Heels and Handshakes. And, expanding is, just creating an environment where people can connect and help each other. And so I would have never thought that.
Right.
Also, if you knew me, I would have never thought that I would be an entrepreneur because I'm not a risk taker. I am that type A where I like the steady paycheck and, knowing the outcome. But this has just been, such a blessing because I'm passionate about what I do every day.
Right. Which
So.
that does more for an entrepreneur than anything.
Yeah.
It's just all passion. I'm very curious about like how your business models evolved since 2013. I mean, because you said you started kind of just with happy hours in Miami. So then how did you decide, or how did you structure like memberships, or even those early days? Did you do like drink tickets, or how did you make money off the thing? I'm curious.
So lots of iterations of the membership model. So in the beginning, it was just happy hours, and it was free in the beginning, and then you would buy your drink.
Right.
And then we started doing $10 tickets, and then we realized that $10 wasn't enough. People would RSVP, and then they wouldn't come because they're like, just $10, nothing really to lose.
Yeah.
And then it went from $10 to $25, and we did that because it held people accountable to show up, because especially if you're creating this environment and you want to connect people, you need attendees, right? Mm-hmm. So we learned very early on that you have to charge money so there's skin in the game, right, for people to come. And, for only $25 and now it's $35, that's still pretty cheap because Nashville prices.
Expensive.
Yep.
So with $35, you get 2 drinks, light bites, and networkings if you're a member. So very affordable, but definitely different iterations throughout the process where, I'm going to be honest, I struggled with monetizing Heels and Handshakes because I thought, well, if I charge money for it, it's going to lose the superpower and the people being authentic and just really wanting to come. And then I realized that couldn't be further from the truth.
Right.
You get what you pay for, right?
Yeah.
And so if people pay and they see the value, because there's value there with, monthly networking events, complimentary education, exclusive invites. We have our own platform for healthcare and benefits, because I know when I left the corporate world, I was like, oh my God, insurance is expensive.
Right.
So we have lots of value adds, and I realized by charging for that, people would take it a little bit more serious too. And they would see the value, and they would be more accountable to be more involved if there was money involved. So that's kind of how that came to fruition.
I like that. Well, you've done a great job with that too.
Thank you.
I really like the model. All the benefits are there.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I know someone was asking me last night, what a new member, or she wasn't a new member, she's a first-time attendee. She was like, this was so much fun. Like, should I join? And I was like, yes, you have to join. And she was like, well, what are the benefits? And I was like, there are so many that I can't even list all of them.
Right.
But I mean, it's such a great organization. I don't have enough good things to say about it.
I'm trying to get better because I think when people leave meetings, it's just this like adrenaline, like, oh my gosh, it was fun and the energy and everyone was really welcoming. I'm trying to get better at really conveying like, okay, so, I gave that gym analogy earlier, right? Like you can't just sign up as a Heels member and then not go to any meetings, don't get on a committee, don't go to any of the education and then be like, I never saw an ROI. Well, of course, because you didn't put anything into it. But we also have another initiative that we call H to H. So it's heel to heel. So we track revenue. And this has been very beneficial for our membership because at the end of the day, we want to support each other, but we also need to get paid.
Right. Exactly.
So with the heel to heel in 2022, or 2020 actually, we tracked our members would submit a form if they've done business with another member or if they received revenue, and we were able to track $1 million in revenue. So it's like, yes, everyone's like, Heels is fun and great way to meet people, but we also get paid.
Yeah, y'all are getting shit done.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, and we refer each other.
That's
and
really
so,
incredible.
I think it's been really amazing to sit back and watch our members. We have our own member portal. And so someone might ask a question like, hey, looking for a dessert bar or looking for an interactive. And members are just like, tag, 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 tag. It's almost like a race, like who can tag this person the fastest. And it's because we all want each other to win. We all want to refer each other. And so I think that's been a really good part of the business model is, it's not just all fun and like, oh, girl power or, whatever, like, oh, we're all support each other. We're also helping each other hit revenue goals and refer businesses and small businesses. We're all about supporting small businesses.
Well, that's a really unique thing to do. I wouldn't have ever thought about that, but to literally track the deals that are being done between people and track that revenue. I mean, that's all you have to do to show someone like, here's the benefit.
Here's the ROI. Well, and there's two things with that, right? So if you're a business owner, you track where your marketing dollars are going. So, and you even said like you got a great hire out of Ashley. So that's a benefit, right? Like, oh, we got a great, a rock star employee. But as an employer, when you're looking at the revenue, if you look at those deals and Heels, you're like, wait a minute. Oh yeah, I forgot we got this referral because of Heels and Handshakes. That was actually a $5,000 piece of business. Right. Boom. There's your ROI. Like, I mean, a membership is very affordable. Yeah. So two ways, one for entrepreneurs. And then the second one is if you work for an employee and, at the end of the year when they're forecasting, looking at organizations and where their marketing dollars are going, you can give that number to your supervisor. Like, look at how much revenue that we got. And then I'll give you a third one. The third thing with that too is if you're a hotel and you said, I didn't get any business out of this, well, look at this number from all of our other hotels. Like, that means you're just not putting in the work and like building those relationships, because here we've got 29 other hotels that are members and they're killing their goals, So like it puts it in perspective. If people think that they didn't get anything out of it, I'm like, well, look at all these other members that have. Right.
Do you see a lot of, obviously, collaboration over competition? Do you see a lot of these hotels working together on stuff?
Yes,
what
absolutely.
Are some things they do together?
So, I mean, with referring each other, especially, Nashville is a booming city with all the tourists and bachelorette parties. I feel like a lot of the hoteliers, they know each other's room rates, or they'll be like, hey, we're booked, but contact this person. So they're always referring each other.
That's great.
And then also for private event space. Now, I'm not going to speak on behalf of anybody, but the bars and restaurants on Broadway, I know a lot of these members have had those collaborative conversations. Like, okay, it's, we're out of the pandemic, but let's talk about what did you increase your prices to? Let's make sure we're all on the same, level, because that's only going to help each other out, right? Like, you have to have those open, honest conversations about like, what's your rental fee or what's your minimum? And so that just helps everybody else up level. And it does a disservice if you're the lowest on, Broadway or the lowest hotel. So I think they're really collaborative about just having those open, honest conversations about pricing or what are your cancellation fees and contracts.
Right. I like that. I think that's going to help out a lot of the entrepreneurs that are listening to this, because it was like I was saying earlier, Sydney and I, we didn't know how we could even collaborate with another agency. Like, we were scared about it. But if you're just like open, like we charged, whatever difference from other agencies, but we get approached by clients that can't afford our rate, but we can send them to other agencies that they could. Doesn't mean they're going to do any like worse work or anything. That's just they are at a different level, and that's what they charge and whatever. So like I like hearing those examples of like just even though you're literally direct competitors.
Yeah.
You can still collaborate.
Absolutely. Well, and then, I've talked to a couple other members where, they've even said that they've reached out to somebody that's in their industry that's outside of the Nashville market. And I'm like, hey, if you've done that, that's a huge step, right? It's like just if you're not comfortable reaching out to someone in your market, even though, I try to practice that mindset of abundance, there's enough for everybody, but some people still have those reservations. At least then they're reaching out to people maybe in Texas or Alabama. But I think you should just have those conversations. You got to know what's out there, what everybody else is doing. You might be able to teach some people some things like, hey, this is what I'm doing. You might have the same pain points and you can be like, oh my gosh, we're experiencing that too. And just be able to really have that camaraderie around your business model.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
Love it. So in January at our board retreat, you said your word for 2022 was growth.
Yes.
How have you done that so far? Now we're 6 months in, and how do you plan to continue to do that?
So that's a really interesting question because, when we talked about this, I said growth for me was growth in my faith, growth in my friendships, growth in my marriage, growth in my finances. I think sometimes when you hear growth, you just think expansion and people just think that's like, oh, the business. And while, yes, that is on our radar and our plan, we are growing Heels Handshakes. We've opened up in Birmingham, and then we're going to hit Austin in Q3, which is right around the corner.
That's great.
So we are doing that. But I'm also learning that with growth, sometimes you do have to rest. And so I said it's interesting, and I don't want to get emotional on this podcast, but, I did experience a huge loss recently. And so I struggled with, oh my gosh, I'm not going to grow Birmingham and Austin the way that I wanted to. I still can. I think don't adjust the goal, just adjust the timeline. Mm-hmm. And I'm still growing in my faith, and I'm growing my marriage stronger, and I'm growing in other areas, even if that means I'm slowing down in the growth of Heels and Handshakes. It's still happening. We already have a couple members from Alabama, which is amazing.
Wow.
That's so exciting.
And then I'll also kind of piggyback on this. So the reason Birmingham really got brought up is there is a professor that works at Auburn University, and this is just the power of like you never know who you're going to meet or who's listening, right? Like someone listening right now. If you have an idea, if there's a city near you, reach out to me. But this professor at Auburn University attended the Junior League Summit virtually, and she heard me speak. And she's been telling her students, because she's in hospitality, to join Heels and Handshakes, and I had no idea. And when we started tracking, like, hey, how did you hear about us? Everyone kept going back to this professor. And so that just kind of shows you the power. Like, you never know who's listening. You never know who's watching you or who you're making an impact on. And so that's where we started seeing growth in Alabama, and then specifically the Birmingham market. We just had people like, I'll drive to the Nashville for the meetings. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. If we've got this much, it's excitement and traction of people that don't have this community in Birmingham, girl, you don't need to drive to Nashville. We'll come to you.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to hear that y'all are expanding.
Yes.
That's so freaking cool. Well, it sounds like that's what's next. Is there anything else on the
No, I think that's pretty much it, is going to other cities. I want to make sure, and I've had this conversation with a couple other members. Sometimes you feel the pressure when things are going really, really well and you have the momentum and it's like, people are reaching out to you. It goes back to that work smarter, not harder. I need to make sure that it's the right fit too. So doing the market research. I'm not going to just go to a market because a couple people, I want to make sure it's a good fit. And so right now, just Birmingham and Austin, but I'm really excited for our growth and just to bring the community that we've built to other cities. So I'm excited for that.
I love that. I think something that would be really fun before we wrap this up, should we do a strut? Can we do a podcast
That's a really
strut?
good
Oh my
idea.
gosh, I love it.
I'm nervous.
Yeah,
you got
me
this.
too.
You got this.
I just say something I'm proud of.
Yeah. Accomplishment, accolades, small win, anything.
Okay. I am going to actually say my strut is doing this podcast right now. Because this is the first podcast I've hosted without Sydney.
Okay.
And I was nervous.
and you did great.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
You stole my
Yay.
strut. I was going to do the
Well,
podcast.
can we have the same strut?
Oh, that's when you know you work together, when you have the same strut,
Yeah.
like you're saying the same thing. But no, that's a huge win.
I feel bad that I stole yours.
No,
'Cause
it's
this
okay.
is
I'll
awesome
come up
too.
with another one.
Okay.
You go first.
So, okay.
I got to think.
Yeah. So, a recent strut of mine, I'll just brag about last night. We had a really good meeting and we've been selling out every month. And that's something that I need to not take for granted, that people want to come to our meetings. And so, we had a great meeting last night. It was sold out. And just everyone had a good time. So that's a strut that I'll share. I'm proud of that.
That's great.
Oh, I have a good one.
All right, let's hear it.
We got a referral through Heels and Handshakes
Oh.
through the
Ooh,
Facebook
yeah.
page. Nothing has been official yet, but we've had several good talks and meetings. But that's a strut.
Yay.
That's a very good strut.
Well, and no pressure. I hope they're listening. You better
Yes.
sign.
I
No, I'm just kidding.
They know who they
You
are.
Ah, awesome.
Yeah, we're very excited about that. That is a good
Yeah.
strut.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Little hustler.
Yeah.
Young hustler. whatever we said
Absolutely.
earlier.
Well, and thank you for doing that. I like that we got to end on everybody got to give a little strut. Because I think
Yes.
there's something just empowering about that. Just being able to say something that you're proud of. And I think you did both of y'all did a great job. And look, hey, actually, hello, Strut, my first podcast. I should have done that.
Yeah, it's
Boom.
all the podcast. That's great. Well, you did a great job too.
Thank
Incredibly
you.
well spoken, obviously.
Thank
And
you.
It's like you speak. It's like you talk to
Sometimes.
people for your job.
Living.
Just a little.
No, it was so great. Well, all right. Before we go, I guess tell people where they can find you.
Yeah.
Just socials, website, the whole nine.
All of it. Okay, so website is just www.heelsandhandshakes.com, and then you can find us on Instagram at Heels and Handshakes. I'm not on TikTok yet. I need to.
But you're killing the Reels game.
Oh,
on
thank
Instagram.
you. So if you want a good laugh, go to our Instagram account and just watch me be awkward and silly in all of our reels. But yeah, follow us on social media, and then my email is Shannen with an E at heelsandhandshakes.com.
And so people can become a member through the website?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So we have a membership page that lists the 3 different levels, and it's really easy peasy. So you can just go to the website and join.
Do it. Yes. Everyone needs to do
And
it.
come to the next meeting on July 7th.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
At Old Red, and
Yes.
we'll be doing photography.
Oh, yeah.
For the
That's
event.
right. We are. Yeah, that's
Yes.
another strut. Super
Yes.
excited about that. So just strutting all over this place. This is great. Well, Shannen, thank you so much for
Thank
coming on
you.
and sharing your strut and talking and giving people insight into the wonderful community that you've built.
Thank you guys for having me. This has been a lot of fun and just an honor, and I'm excited to have my first podcast. So.
That's great. Awesome. Thanks, y'all, for listening.
Thank you.